The next item is basically about a book which is going to be launched very soon officially, but we've got the pre
Yes.
booking of it basically right now. So
We do.
I'm happy to have you on.
Thank
How
you.
are you, Dan?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for Grip Investments for having me here as well. This is truly an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've been speaking for some time
Yeah.
about blockchains in general, or just trying to see what are the possibilities, use cases going forward. I remember that last year actually we kind of met for the first time here at the Trescon's World Blockchain Summit, and we connected. We met at Emirates Towers many times and bumped into each other. But more importantly is the fact that you were writing a book, and I'm so excited that now the book launch is going to happen very soon. It's going to be tomorrow.
Yes.
And the location is?
It's a place called Dubai Future Academy. It's the world's first 3D printed office. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. Dubai has, again, the first 3D printed office in the world. And I'm very honored to have the privilege to do my book launch there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's the book called?
This is the book here. This is, as you said, the pre-release. This is actually my first 100 copy. This is, it's called I Don't Trust You, but Blockchain and Bitcoin Will Help.
Oh, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for years, being, in the financial side of the world, working with insurance companies and banks, the biggest thing which is there is to trust your banker.
Absolutely.
And, that is basically somewhere in our generation lost.
Yeah. I think we're living at a very interesting time, if you think about it, where there's just so much distrust in the world, right? And so what I talk about in the book is, the I don't trust you truly captures the sentiment that most of us share for just about everything, right? And so when we look at a society that's becoming more and more codependent on the internet, we see a lot of information that can be weaponized, or information that is, not trustworthy. And that leads us to make, bad decisions, even when we talk about investing in the crypto market, and then so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I wanted to write a book to talk about how a particular technology is really transforming that. And I truly see blockchain being used as that infrastructure of trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that consensus algorithm, which is there to to give you that feeling of trust, is something which for a lot of people is like talking gaga, because you usually go to an institution where your money is safe, or where your investments are safe. Now, how did you come in this path of looking into these blockchains, and more importantly, how you came into looking into Bitcoin, for example?
Yeah, that's actually, I think, an awesome question. First of all, thank you for asking it to me. In this part of the world, I was very fortunate enough to be a part of one of the first cross-border payment solutions using RippleNet a few years back. And I really, kind of thrust into this space. I come from a machine learning background, computer science.
Okay.
And I was very, people kept talking about blockchain this, blockchain that, or Bitcoin this. Actually, my mentor is a guy by the name of Jim Kittredge. He was the head of innovation for Barclays a few years back. And he told me about, Bitcoin. He said, you need to invest in this. This is back in 2011, 2012. And I honestly didn't jump on it, right? It wasn't until I kind of just got thrown into the role here in the region. And then I learned that there was a lot of people who really didn't understand the technology. And a big part of what I've done throughout my career is try to take complex ideas and make them simple. And so I found myself working with the likes of Microsoft and other organizations on helping to educate their customers on what blockchain and Bitcoin is really all about. And then along the way, I just kept hearing about people who have so much distrust. And then I learned about the white paper. I read the white paper, read so much stuff about that I could find. And then I started speaking with a lot of thought leaders that I felt were more knowledgeable in this subject than myself. And the common trend, the common theme that emerged was that, blockchain was really solving this trust issue. And when we start thinking about the future, well, one of the chapters I talk about is the future of trust, right? And how we really do need, in this trustless world that we live in today, we need some form or some mechanism that's going to enable us to trustless parties. And hopefully I've covered that. I have about maybe 30 plus examples in the book of how we're using blockchain today, from a government chain, from a permissionless chain, like Bitcoin, for example, or just other private chains that exist.
All right.
Yeah.
So, very interesting journey you've been, basically.
Literally.
And, for me also, that journey, I mean, I started off actually, looking into this white paper of Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who he is.
Right.
It's definitely not Craig Wright.
Right.
But more importantly, more importantly is the fact that, we were looking at it and I was like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
What is this? Digital money?
Yeah.
I mean, for the first time I heard about it was with David Chaum, basically, when I heard about digital money. But I really didn't understand the concept. And then when I read the Bitcoin white paper, I also was like, I don't understand it. But for the third time, it came across my mind, and I got interested in it.
Yeah.
And of course, I really saw in 2008 what happened to a lot of us.
Absolutely.
In 2008, for guys who all do not remember it anymore, but a credit default swap happened where basically junk-rated bonds were repackaged and basically sold as a double A or high quality bond, basically, which it was not in the end. So what happened is that a lot of banks bought it. It was repackaged, restructured, and because of that, a lot of banks went down. In the end, the consumer had to pay for it, and that is something which is very, very sad to see. And because of out of that. In 2009, to be exact, in January 3rd, the first Genesis block was mined on Bitcoins, where they said, hey, we got enough of this quantitative easing.
Yes.
Central banks looking into this space and then, playing around to stabilize or put it in one direction, all these things. And we were like, okay, how can this be better utilized going forward? So for a lot of people, that was really a turning point in their lives. Even for me, it was a turning point. At that time, I was a contractor working for different insurance companies as an actuary. And I basically saw that the distrust in the insurance market was totally gone.
Yeah.
There was no new business coming in because of that. And really people had really something against financial markets.
Can I add to that if you don't
Sure.
mind? So, you spoke on some pivotal dates, and Satoshi's paper, the white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer cashless payment system, that came out, I want to say late October 2008. Mm-hmm. And in the paper, that whole idea was to, literally cut out the middleman, the establishment, governments, banks, etc. And it was all about because of the distrust. And the paper came out at such a pivotal time in our society, if you think about it. Again, it's around 2008, where the wealthy were getting wealthier. The research shows us between 2009, directly after the crash, to 2010, wealthy households in the U.S. grew about 30%, right, in assets, whereas those who were less fortunate, the rest of us, right, we decreased our assets by 5%. And when the governments let me back up. When the banks were failing, the governments were bailing them out. And so I was very fortunate enough at the time to work for one of the largest banks in the U.S. And at the time, I do remember how like some of the banks were getting bailed out. And unfortunately, all the people were losing everything, losing their life savings, having to relocate to move into, houses with their, family members that they didn't like, right? I literally saw this. Actually, I was affected by it personally. But at the same time, some of these CEOs and senior leaders from these large organizations were getting huge payouts, huge, right? And so it just created like this, I call it hyper distrust.
Yeah. And
so when Bitcoin really emerged, it just, it kind of took off because it was a way to not have to depend on an establishment like a third party like MasterCard, PayPal, etc., and just be peer-to-peer. And I truly believe that's the world is going to be more decentralized. And I have to give it to the UAE in particular for recognizing the disruptive nature of this technology and trying to harness it within the government, and then at the same time trying to educate people on how their vision on how we can collaborate with it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something to be seen for sure.
Yeah.
How this distrust basically happened.
Yeah.
2008 is definitely the pivotal year. I can really remember
Yeah.
just sitting here. I just arrived actually in Dubai.
Wow.
I was sitting with my friend in Abu Dhabi, and we were watching CNN, where they said Lehman Brothers just shut down their doors basically, and people just walking out in despair that what is happening out of here.
Yeah.
So it's been an incredible journey. We're now in 2009.
Yeah.
We just heard a previous panel basically talking about there might be some kind of a recession coming in, maybe in the coming years. But what is more importantly is the fact that we all should be prepared and well educated on what we do.
Yeah.
And there you play a pivotal role by giving this book coming out and educating people. So I really want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
For taking that journey upon you.
Can I add to that real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
There's this concept I talk about over and over in the book. It's called exposure yields growth. And the reason why is, as human beings, we are so incredible, right? When we talk about machine learning, which I can talk about all day long, what makes humans so special is it's still not really defined yet. We're still spending billions and trillions of dollars trying to understand that. But we're incredible beings. And at the end of the day, when we are exposed to different things, we can create ideas that did not exist before.
True.
And create something that, can create the next unicorns. And truly, I think education is where it all starts.
Education is where it starts, so I'm very glad about that. So, I mean, I try to do my piece of it by doing video podcasting here out of Grip HQ. But more importantly is the fact that together, we can really make a difference as the future is going to change dramatically. I mean, for years we had got all these governments / borders basically, not able to do trade with somebody or not able to cross certain things, transactions being stopped or reversed, all these kinds of things happening. And within the banking sector, basically, that is something which has been really, really hurting a lot of business.
Yeah.
And, let's see where the world is going to go. But I believe that using blockchain technology will definitely make a huge difference in the way we do business at present.
I agree.
So, I went to a very nice introduction about the unbanked or, about financial inclusion.
Yeah.
I can remember, being so much out of there that, we can say, hey, my transaction of 5,000 dirhams was stopped and it was reversed, anything like that. But there are so many people. Yeah. So many people in, for example, the African continent or the Asian continent, which are truly unbanked.
Oh, absolutely. I briefly talk about an organization called Stellar.org. They have something called Stellar X that's happening. It's actually growing. They're backed by a lot of major organizations. And really, it's a nonprofit. So for them to do a cross-border payment solution, talking about like Ripple, for Stellar to do a cross-border payment solution, for every 1,000 transactions, it's about 2 cents.
Okay.
Anywhere in the world that you have internet connectivity.
And it doesn't matter if it's $1 or $1 billion?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, we don't hear a lot of press about this, right? But I highlight some of those organizations throughout this book.
And so is this part of the Stellar Foundation or?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So Stellar is it's a nonprofit as an entity, but it also has its coin as well.
Lumens, right?
Lumens.
Yes.
Right.
So, as far as I understand that Stellar was also one of the few projects which came out which didn't do an ICO.
Correct, yeah.
And right now, for example, the SEC is really taking it really, really hard in the US. Going, against EOS, Block 1, going against Telegram, going against so many projects right now. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So with my chapter 2, I call it, I want to say, I think I call it new solutions or new challenges. And it's all about, what I call cryptocurrency 101. So I break it down from the basis of, where crypto kind of all began, so to speak, and then how it's really evolved all the way to, looking at like Libra. And so I highlight what Libra really is. To really help educate the reader on the different types of crypto. So we talk about ICOs, STOs, and really the difference between the two. And I totally agree with you that this is a very interesting time that we live in, and I think we're going to see a lot more. I don't want to call it craziness, but we're going to see a lot of evolution of how we leverage cryptocurrencies, one, and then as well as how traditional markets will fight against it. And the reason being is we're taking a shift from a centralized model to a decentralized model.
Got it.
And that's really breaking a lot of traditional establishments' way of making money. And when you talk about disrupting the way large organizations make money, they're not going to be happy with that.
I got it. So I mean, something you touched also on is basically the fact that looking at these different kind of options which are there, which were previously not there, basically.
Absolutely.
So these options give the possibility to really revolutionize as we go forward. What is something which really you put a lot of effort in right now? I mean, of course, you've been putting a lot of effort in writing this book, and my congratulations on that. But more importantly is the fact that what really grabs your attention nowadays.
So much. From a, let's say, a crypto perspective, or I think what's really interesting about that is now we are in a position where we can tokenize, or we can tokenize any financial product that has ever existed before, and create even new financial products that never really existed before, because we can create new business models. And so I think that's really interesting to see the new business models emerge, because that creates new jobs.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the jobs of the future are a big part of it. I'm not going to say a big part of it, all of it, the majority of it is going to be emerging technology.
Okay.
And so blockchain is one of those, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, space tech, etc. But these are the jobs that we as a society, should be focusing on really learning, so that we can create the next set of thousands and billions of millions of jobs, right? So that's really what's exciting to me, is seeing the new job growth opportunities that are emerging.
All right. So let me share where I now spend most of my time looking at is actually digital banks. We're having, first of all, a paperless bank, where really no papers are used, but also processes are like optimized to serve the customer. So if you look in France, for example, I just see my friend Bilal walking in, but more importantly is the fact that in France, for example, a Revolut as a digital bank has just taken over.
Can I add to that, right?
Sure.
So I teach a course here in the region called The Future of Banking. I teach another course called Blockchain Applications. And while we do recognize that there is a huge growth, explosion in digital-only banks, we still see that there's actually still traction in physical branches, just putting that out there. And the biggest reason is, when you look at, let's say, the U.S. in particular, the largest asset group, the largest category of segmentation that has wealth in the U.S. are the baby boomers.
Yes.
The younger, you look at another example, let's say Airbnb. A lot of people don't realize this, but the vast majority of hosts on Airbnb are 60 plus.
60 plus?
60 plus.
People with gray hair?
Yes, which is if you think about it, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a generation that built trust based on physical characteristics.
Yes.
How you look at someone, how your hair looks, your facial hair, the way you shake someone's hand, etc., etc. But technology is really giving them another platform to earn income. And so what we're seeing a lot nowadays is that that the physical branches still exist, partially because that demographic that has the most amount of wealth, they still enjoy this.
Yes.
Shaking someone's hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so as that generation transitions, onward, then we'll see, I think we'll see even more digital only banks. But until then, we'll see both.
So right now, I mean, I don't travel that much, but I used to travel really a lot. And one of the pain points was always, of course, airports have to do their security.
Oh, yeah.
But checking into a hotel,
Man.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, can I have your passport, please? Can
Yeah.
I have which day you arrive, which day you go? I mean, I'm like, you know everything of me already.
Yeah.
Why you need to reconfirm everything right now?
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
it's really that's really a pain point. And then on top of that, I might be like a gold member or a platinum member of that hotel chain. So they should be knowing me and actually, opening the door. Prem, welcome back.
So let's take that a little step further. If you think about it, right, to be able to travel to any first world country without a passport, a visa, or a physical ticket, to be able to walk straight through immigration, check your bag in, or arrive at your final destination and get into an autonomous vehicle that takes you to your final destination, like pressing one button and arrive at your final destination.
Yes.
All this is possible today.
On the blockchain?
But what I'm saying is the reason why we don't see it today is because of trust issues.
Got it. No.
And so as we see more and more of these organizations start to collaborate, leveraging blockchain, we will definitely see that. We'll see a better user experience.
So
sure.
I used to work with big insurance companies, and they would have 86 systems.
Yes.
Just to make a policy which says, hey, dude, you're insured for $1,000 or €1,000.
Yeah.
So it's like crazy. 86 systems
Yeah.
to manufacture something like that. And on top of that, I also see that these are all these legacy systems
For sure.
going forward, creating this kind of layer upon layer upon layer. Now, if you look in the supply chain area, for example, huge benefits that everything gets synchronized immediately. All the nodes get synchronized and have the same information at the same time. So that is really something which is really phenomenal to see how that is going to change how we do business. Because that instant moment, through my 3G or 4G internet connection, people should be knowing I'm coming actually.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing in countries like Estonia and even the UAE particularly, and even Bahrain, is that they're still keeping some of their legacy systems because the legacy, I don't call it establishment, but the legacy personnel, they still see the value in legacy. And so that interoperability is what we call it, is trying to leverage emerging technology that still works with the old technology and still allows us to collaborate. Because at the end of the day, what makes blockchain so powerful is the ability to collaborate with so many parties. And if you do not collaborate with a lot of parties, then your blockchain solution is pointless.
So if I looked at Libra, for example, there were 20 companies basically participating.
Yeah.
I was
28.
Or 28 even. So I mean, the whole thing was this. I was super pumped about that project.
Yeah.
Now the U.S. government is really cutting it into pieces.
I still think it's going to happen. I'm not going to say I think. I'm confident it's going to happen in some form or fashion. And for multiple reasons. One, I think Mark Zuckerberg recently came out and talked to the SEC and said something along the lines of, if we don't do something like this, the U.S. is going to be taking a back seat to other countries. And so I think given the current climate and distrust we have in the world today, I think that would be motivation for the U.S. to move forward with Libra, to support Facebook for doing it. The second thing is, if Libra really, if Facebook really wanted to, or that Libra Association wanted to, they could still proceed and no one really could stop them because it's technically decentralized. Well, not I want to say that. It's technically a consortium. Right, and so and it's a consortium that is governed by Swiss regulations, whereas Collabora, which is the Facebook app, that's a different conversation. So if if Libra decided to move forward, there really wouldn't be much that the U.S. government could do about it.
So I believe that maybe Mark Zuckerberg takes the big hit, but somebody else will come and do the same thing.
For sure. Yeah.
And structured in a different, better way.
Let's take this a step further. Of the top 100 economies in the world today, top 100, only 31 of them are actually countries. I think I might have said it wrong, but 69 of all the top 100 economies right now are corporations. And governments are already seeing value in, let's say, blockchain.
Yes.
So we can definitely imagine that corporations will do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, right, I see the borders of countries going away.
Absolutely.
And where corporations, or as I like to call it, big tech, or tech fins, are basically really going to take it over. So I really believe that Google knows everything of me.
Yeah, they do.
I got an Android phone. They know everything about me, where I am, what I'm doing, what my calendar says, how much money I've spent. They know it even better than my bank. So the whole idea of, I was yesterday in the Dusit Thani Hotel, and Google told me, how was your experience at the Dusit Thani Hotel? Then I was this morning at Emirates Towers, and Google asked me, how was your experience at Emirates Towers Hotel? I just like Jumeirah, hotel. I was like, what is going on?
I know, it is interesting. I remember one of my craziest experiences a few years back. My phone notified me that I needed to leave now to make my flight.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. And I'd never scheduled this calendar invitation or anything. I was just like, how did you know? And
it looked at your e-ticket.
Yes.
And then said, hey, you're here in Liberty House right now, and you need to go to the airport, Terminal 3. That means you need to go right now because Sheikh Zayed Road is full of cars.
I know it, but it was just that smart, right? And so, but again, I think, just going back to the earlier topic we talked about, I think, again, when these organizations start to collaborate, it's going to make our experiences better, right?
Yes.
And so that's one of the, I think, true values or benefits that a cryptocurrency or a Libra, I call it that, a Libra currency will add to Facebook, right? Is that you'll have a currency that you can use across just about everywhere Facebook is accepted. It should be everywhere.
True. So, my mom uses Facebook.
Yeah.
And if she would have in Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp a possibility to receive or send money, she would use it because it would be ease of use.
Convenience, that's right. That's the future.
So,
that's the now.
Right now, it's like every month I send some money out to her. And I have to go to the bank. She needs to go 3 miles away to pick up the money. And, it's really inconvenient for her. And all the merchants, will accept this whatever currency it's going to be. It's definitely digital, but this digital currency, they will accept it, and from there it will be going on to different kind of use cases going forward.
So we are literally a society that's codependent on the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the younger generation, for a fact, are right. I have 2 little ones, and I know my littlest. It's just a different generation. They have different devices that we never even thought of. Really, I didn't know about. Obviously we didn't have these devices that they have now, like Amazon Alexa or Google Nest, etc. Right? And so it's just a different world. But as we continue to evolve as a society, I think we'll become even more codependent.
Absolutely. So my eldest daughter is 11. I always say she will never go to a physical bank to open a bank account ever.
Makes no sense. Yeah.
Because through that identification number, maybe an Emirates ID or anything else going forward, your social security number. It's everything is connected. You know everything of me. And on top of that, you can have 100% surveillance. Because everybody needs a smartphone to do anything nowadays.
I think what's going to be potentially interesting. I'm not sure if any organization will do this, but I think we have a big issue around privacy now. But I can imagine, and I kind of briefly touch on it, a world where actually I think I took it out, but I digress. That there may be a time where corporations will say, we will compensate you for your privacy. Now think on that.
So this idea, right, in the ICO market. Which I want to forget like anything. But a lot of companies really jumped on it and really made it happen that, hey, let's monetize on your data instead of Google doing it, instead of Facebook doing it. Let's do it ourselves.
Sure.
So for that matter, that was the really idea, and then small companies didn't have the, people to do it.
Right.
So that's why they failed.
Agreed.
And that's why at
it
times
takes the big organizations to do it. If the big organizations do it, the ones that have 2.8 billion monthly active users do something like this, right? Then it gets mass adoption, instantly. And I think that's what you really need. You need one of the big players to get behind it. Other than that, it's too hard. Well, it can be too difficult to convince, from the grassroots, from the bottom up.
So I want to digress a little bit.
Sure.
The word fintech is right,
Yes.
like financial institutions
Yeah.
going into the technology way,
Yes.
right? I mean, 1/3 of the people I meet are digital transformations officers nowadays. I don't know what happened, but apparently everybody is.
I heard they were hiring.
But more importantly is the fact that, this kind of really, financial institutions were looking into it.
Yeah.
Now technology, so techs are looking into, finance kind of issues or big tech, right? I mean, big companies, big technology companies like a Netflix, like a Google, and like a Facebook, like a Amazon, would come out with these kind of solutions because they have got a user base to be nuts about, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they have the perfect audience to test it out with, But, one of the things that I briefly touch on in the book is I talk about how startups are able to move at what we perceive as internet speed, like super fast.
Mm-hmm.
But these behemoths, or I call them empires, right? Because they're, again, bigger than most countries now. They have to move at snail speed. And so going back to Libra, for example, I had predicted that they would do this over a year and a half ago, that they would do, that Facebook would do something. But I knew that they weren't just going to do like a basic cryptocurrency because, there's too many issues around that in its general form. And they'll never do something that's completely permissionless. Not, well, I don't say never, maybe down the road. But I think what I call their end game is you have to read the book. I don't want to give it all away. But just trust me, the end game is about Calibra. It's not Libra. I promise you that.
All right. So collaborations is definitely the way to go forward.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that if you have good collaborations with big parties who have similar interests.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I
Common
take an
truths.
Uber, I sleep in an Airbnb, and, stay, fly Emirates.
Yeah.
It makes sense if you collaborate in that matter.
It does.
So you stay in that ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's why these apps of the future, like the WeChats, the Alipay solutions, the future Facebooks, those are going to be the new norm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that all these things are happening, and I feel going forward, artificial intelligence is also something I want to just talk about.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just had brief talk about Alexa.
Yes.
So I mean, Alexa, I have Alexa at home.
Yeah.
I treat her like my own family member.
Yeah,
because
she's always listening.
She's always listening. Which is a good thing, right? If somebody's listening.
Yeah, maybe.
My kids at that time do not listen to me.
I get it. No, I mean, these devices are... So I started my career in something... Well, I can't say I started my career. I'm a little older than I may look. But one of my first big projects was working for a large bank in the U.S. And we were looking at what we call audio analytics. And so what we were doing was really understanding the employees, what they... especially from a risk perspective, making sure they weren't communicating sensitive information outside the bank, right?
Okay.
And then, also able to aggregate information about social media or who they're emailing, etc. And so the whole purpose of it was to ensure that, resources were aligning their jobs to what they do, right? Their communications to their jobs. And to now see how this technology has really evolved into something completely different now. What I mean by that is the audio analytics type of solutions that we were doing. Now we see it in Alexa and Google Home and Google Nest, etc., where it now understands nuances. Nuances is when you go, things of this nature.
Yeah, okay.
And so back in the day, we didn't really plan for this because we didn't think about that, right? But really to see how the technology is evolving, it's incredible. And just to imagine that in for example, Google Duplex. I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but some of your audience, I'm sure, are familiar with Google Duplex and how Google has created, a solution suite that is not for public consumption that allows, it to schedule appointments for you or to, be your personal assistant to the next level of expertise. all without a human person doing any real.
So, I mean, I think at the
efforts.
Google Summit,
Yes.
they made, I want to make an appointment with a
Yes.
hairdresser
Yes.
or a barber.
Yeah.
And basically it was like, hey guys, make me an appointment. And
And
they
did
would...
everything. And it sounds just like you, right? And so my first startup in the region was called Universal Linguistics, so ULIQ for short, uliq.com. And the idea was to try to create the first Arabic Siri. Because
Okay.
we saw that Arabic had 32 different dialects, and we wanted to try to create that Siri for it. And the idea was that in the future, you could have like a Google or an Amazon be able to, in the form of an API, access your dialects.
Absolutely.
And so that when the IVR or the speech-to-text solution would sound like a real person. And so what we can foresee now is that we'll see the convergence of AI and blockchain. AI from a centralized perspective, like as in aggregating all the data to create, predictive analytics, informed information, informed nuances, as in like being able to sound like a real person, and then blockchain to decentralize the ownership of the data, right?
Yes.
So that it's not compromised.
So before I let you go, a big announcement tomorrow, press release for the book.
Yes.
Very, very excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful, for meeting you from time to time.
Absolutely.
And we have these kind of discussions
We do.
when we have our coffees together.
Yeah.
But more importantly, where can people buy this book after tomorrow?
So the book will be available on Amazon, on Kindle, on Goodreads. It's about 12 different platforms. We're going to do a big campaign starting first week of November. So right now I'm doing kind of these private sessions to make sure that thought leaders like yourself have an opportunity to see what I'm working on, give feedback, and then the final release will be hopefully better. I always say practice makes better, so I'm using this as practice to make something incredible.
And thank you so much for coming on, sharing your knowledge on what you've written in this book. I think it's really phenomenal. Everybody go to Amazon.ae to get it. You get it on the .com as well?
Actually, if you go to idon'ttrustyou.net, you can sign up and get an early edition. Again, it's idon'ttrustyou.net. That's it.
All right. So thank you so much, and I hope very soon you also come out with an audible version of it.
Yes.
I
would love to crowdsource to find the best voice. So if you're interested in helping me come up with the best voice to narrate the book, let's talk. Again, at idon'ttrustyou.net. Or you can just Google me, Damu and blockchain, or Damu in Dubai, and I'm the first one that shows up.
Absolutely. Maybe we can use Alexa's voice to do it. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
On our live stream.
Yes.
We'll catch up soon again, man.
Absolutely. Thank
you,
you,
bro.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you.